Hey, this is Luke. Hey there, Luke from Korneff Audio. And today we're looking at the release time. I made a quick song using some loops on Logic, and it sounds like this. Okay, and it's important to set the release right on compressors to make this little mix work. So we're going to set a compressor and a release time on the drums, on the guitar, on the bass, and on the entire mix. We're going to start with the bass. So there's a lot of really low frequency information in that bass, and that is what we want to hear. Otherwise, the bass is kind of just very clicky if you hear it in the mix. Like you get a little bit of the ding 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 ding, which is very cool, but you don't get the resonance of the bass part, so you're really just getting clicks. So I'm going to compress it, and I'm going to play with the release control. So let's just give it some kind of ratio, and auto makeup gain, always put it on. Now if I set that release really long, see, I'm holding that resonance down, and if I set it short, hear the resonance come up. Now I'm clipping off a bit of the attack here. See, now you can actually hear the like there's a growl on that bass now that you couldn't hear before. Here's without it. Right, so you can hear that quiet growl coming up. This release is really fast. And if I slow it down, right, hear the growl going away? Right, almost gone. Right in here sounds pretty good. And let me see what happens if I loosen up that attack. I get a little more resonance off that attack. So let's hear what this bass part sounds like in the mix now. So here's without it. Okay, so that's better. Let's knock that out of here, and let's go over to the drums. The Smash Kit, as played by Jesse, one of my favorite electronic drummers. Robot who runs around the house. Okay, here we are. There's a tiny bit of room on this. There's no resonance to really anything, right? The kick is kind of sitting there. If I put this in the mix, the drums just don't sound like they're lasting long enough, right? And the fact that you want to make them last longer means you kind of want to bring up their sustain. That's a clear indication that you're going to be playing with the release. So let's click on the pawn shop, and I'm just going to drop this. Now if I set the release really long, I'm going to start nipping out. Actually, I'll nip out the snare because the pawn shop is not going to get a chance to recover before the next hit comes in. So it'll nip off the transients. And I'm also going to hold down all of the resonance and little rattles and room sound of the kit. Now, as I speed the release up, you'll see the kit starts to breathe. Up, right in there. Hear the kick? So here's before, here's after. Let me drop this a little bit. Before. The attack is actually pretty good. That's fine. So right in the release here, there's a certain spot where I'm hearing the resonance of the kick, and what was lost mainly in this mix was the resonance of the kick. So let's just put the kick back in there and fine-tune it a little bit. Here, I'm going to slow this release down, and that resonance on the kick is going to go away, and then I'm going to ease it back, and eventually it's going to come back a little bit. I'm going to bring the kick up just a tiny bit so you can hear it. Hear the kick? Hear it come out? Here's before. So it's right there, you're really getting a lot more of the kick hitting you, and that's the resonance of the kick coming up. So now we've got the drums and bass working together. Let's solo them together. Now if I put that release too fast on the drums, the kick starts getting in the way of the bass, and I don't want that. Right now it's longer, you notice the bass of the drum is going away, so right in here. This is actually really cool. Maybe I'll write a song around these two things. Anyway, let's put the guitar. Let's listen to the guitar part now. Click this out. Well, a lot of that guitar part is the slide. It's a wow, so he's sliding up. And then the other thing that's on this guitar is there's a lot of echo and delay, and that's actually out more towards the left and right of your speakers. It's wide. And in the mix, that's all lost. Now some of it is, why don't you just bring it up in the mix? Well, I could do that, but then eventually the sustained part of the chords are just going to overpower everything. So you heard that, right? Suddenly that fun drum and bass part, that interplay that we managed to bring out with proper settings on the compressors, that's going to get lost. So what I want to do is set the release on this short enough that I bring up some of the echoey parts, and that slide comes out. That's going to be more the release than the attack, even though that's at the beginning of the phrase. If the release is too long, what it'll do is it'll hold down the attack and it'll hold down that slide. So we're going to try to balance that out a little bit. Okay, you notice this meter isn't really getting a chance to recover back to zero. It's really important that you get in the habit of kind of tracking that meter and making sure it's fitting with the music. And in fact, let's just solo out the drums, and you'll see that the meter is really tracking the drum part. So here's the pawn shop. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Here's the pawn shop on the drums. You can almost whistle the drum part, right, or the drum part by looking at the meter. And on the bass, right, that meter is really reflective of the bass part. So same thing on the guitar. One of the easiest and best ways to set release is to just watch it and make sure that it looks like it sounds. You watch that needle. Okay, so this looks terrible, right? It's just down. So I'm going to speed that release up here. Now you might notice the reverb on the left and right, wide on the mix, are coming up as I pull that in. So I'm going to pull that in and you'll hear it. Hear it right in there. It really starts coming to life. You hear all that little stuff. That's all quiet stuff. That's you're hearing when the meter gets up to about in here. Now on the attack here, there's not a lot of attack on this guitar sound. I could speed it up and it might get a little poppier, or rather in terms of not poppier as in playing, but pop as in, you know, more to the sound. But maybe not. And in fact, I could also close the sound down a lot by doing too fast an attack. So if you notice this part, it has a chucka. You kind of want the compressor bringing that ka-chucka chucka. Sounds so stupid talking about this stuff. Bringing that chucka chucka up, because that's going to blend in and fit with the percussion of the drum and bass, that kind of element of the drum and bass, to just sound cool and groovy. So let's hear that. Let's see if we can't get the release to bring that up. Now you might notice with the compressor in, there's a lot more movement because you're bringing up the echoes with that faster release. You're hearing the rhythm of the guitar, the movement of those delays. So let's put this into the mix and see what we get. Guitar is huge sounding now. A little too big maybe, so maybe we'll play with the release on the guitar a little bit, see if we can't hold it back. In a mix, you'd probably try to thin some of the mid-range out on that guitar, but I'm trying not to do anything but play with compressors for this. So the last thing I'm going to do is a pawn shop across the entire mix. So let's say 6-to-1, auto makeup gain. I think I already dropped I already dropped that down a little bit. So what am I looking to do in this entire mix? Let me think about this for a moment. I think I'm looking to actually push that guitar down a little bit and bring up the bottom end a little bit more. Well, let's play with it. Okay, so this is not very much compression at all, and the release, who knows? You know, I guess it sounds good to me. I don't know what to tell you. Tiny little bit of compression, and it's, you know, I hate the term. People always talk about glue. You know, the compressor glues the whole thing together. Really, what that is, I guess, is that somehow the dynamics of the entire track are being ridden, kind of pushed along by one instrument, so the whole track is kind of going in time with that one instrument. Sounds like it's glued together, something like that. But let's play with this a little more. That attack made a huge difference. Didn't necessarily expect that, but it really takes the bass out. And if it's slower, it brings the bass up. Huge difference in sound right in the threshold there, like from here to here. It's a huge difference. notice if I set the release too fast, I sort of, the track loses cohesiveness. It starts, I'm starting to hear the individual instruments compressing as opposed to the entire track compressing. And I think that's the glue that people talk about right there. Compressor working on the entire track and not doing something like, I'm going to compress the bass, then I'm going to compress the drums, then I'm going to compress the guitar. It's like working on the entire song. So you're going to hear it kind of glue itself together when the release gets in this neck of the woods over 5. Before that, it kind of feels all separate and piecemeal to me. And past that, we're going to start killing the entire track, and it'll start sounding like it's just not really there. It'll sound dead. So let's set it too short, and then we'll set it longer, and we'll hear that moment where it kind of pulls itself together. See, like right in here, the bass is almost too loud. And when I get to about in here, the bass suddenly like obeys and lines up with the drums a little better. And if I really push it out into this neck of the woods, it just kind of starts sounding dull. And again, that meter's very, very unmusical. It's not doing anything with the music. It's just hanging out down around -7. Let's just turn the compressors off and we'll hear the entire thing, and then I'll pop them in and you'll hear how it comes together. Here's the bass. Here's the drums. Here's the guitar. And here's the pawn shop across the entire mix. Okay, so that's just compressors. That's no EQ. That's just compressors, mixing just with compressors, and really paying attention to the release times to bring out the quiet stuff, and on the mix bus, get the entire thing to glue together by getting that release just right. So that is it for now. For my friend Jolie Barish. Jolie, I am sorry I did not match the volumes better, and everybody else who's annoyed that I didn't match the volume better, I am so sorry. It's just, that's not what you really do in a mix. I don't know anybody who like mixes and then turns everything off and goes, oh yeah, that sounds bad. Then turns it all on and goes, oh, that sounds good. No, you just mix it so it sounds good. That is what you do. You know, if people want to do an A-B comparison, that's like, I don't know, diet, right? Like before I lost 40 pounds and after I lost 40 pounds, but not with a mix. That doesn't make any sense really to me. I'm an opinionated fool, and I'm also overweight. Anyway, I'll catch you guys all later, and rock on, play with your compressors, make good music, blah, 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 blah. This is Luke from Korneff saying bye. Oh, and we're just going to rock out as we go. Should I do a fade? Should I do a fade? Try to get it on the drums. Yeah, you always want to get something cool happening in the fade.